Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi takes time off for meditation on the eve of the 7th and last phase of the country's parliamentary election. Heatwave claims at least 65 lives in India's northern state of Bihar. The country's capital, New Delhi, grapples with a water crisis. Defense ministers of the US and China lock horns over Taiwan at a security summit in Singapore. Ukraine's president likely to attend the event. In a policy shift, US President Joe Biden allows Ukraine to use US-supplied weapons against Russia in order to defend the under-fire Kharkiv region. And Donald Trump becomes the first former US president to be convicted of a crime. Court finds him guilty of falsifying documents to cover up a payment to silence an adult film star in 2016. A U.S. court has found Donald Trump guilty in a hush money trial. After 2 days of deliberation, a 12-member jury pronounced the former U.S. president guilty of all 34 charges. Trump became the first former U.S. president to be declared a convict as he runs for presidency in the November election. The judge has set 11th July as the date of sentencing. It will come just days before the Republican Party officially chooses him as its nominee. Trump will not be jailed ahead of the sentencing. He has denied any wrongdoing. A lawyer representing him said that they would appeal as quickly as possible. And Donald Trump has expressed outrage at his conviction and maintained his innocence. Trump's been calling the trial a scam and vowing to appeal against the decision.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win. Because our country's gone to hell.
And moving on, Russia has said that its forces are advancing in all tactical directions in Ukraine and taken control of 28 settlements this month. 3 people were killed and 16 injured after a Russian missile destroyed a power facility and a power grid in Kiev on Friday. The region's governor said that S-300 missiles were used in the attacks that occurred at about midnight local time. Russia's air defense systems destroyed a Ukrainian drone over the Tatarstan region. 2 airports in Tatarstan suspended operations for more than 2 hours on Friday for safety reasons. US President Joe Biden has given permission to Ukraine to strike inside Russian territory with US-made weapons. Biden said Kyiv can only hit targets over the border close to Kharkiv in what the U.S. characterizes as acts of self-defense. The move follows Kyiv requesting Washington, D.C. to change its policy a few weeks ago. And the Kremlin said on Friday that it was aware of attempts made by Ukraine to strike Russian targets using weapons provided by the US. A Kremlin spokesperson said while Moscow did not know about the details of the US decision, such a move would only show how deeply the US was involved in the conflict. And Dasha Chernyshova has the latest from Moscow.
Indeed, the Russian Ministry of Defense claims it has been making steady advancements on all tactical directions in Ukraine. We also understand from Andrei Belousov, who has been recently appointed as Russia's defense minister, that since the start of 2024, the Russian armed forces have managed to take control of 880 square kilometers in Ukraine. And in May alone, he says the Russian armed forces have managed to take control over 28 settlements. Those include the Kharkiv direction that has been opened most recently, with the Russian forces trying to create the so-called buffer zone in that area. We also understand that the Ukrainian army, according to Moscow, has lost over 35,000 servicemen in May alone, as well as 2.7 thousand units of the military equipment. So according to Moscow, the operation is ongoing, with the goals expected to be achieved by the Russian military one way or another. And they continue to say that what's happening at the moment is the West fueling this conflict by supplying more weapons to Ukraine. Well, indeed, Moscow regards these steps as the further escalation of the conflict in Ukraine. That does speak a lot about the further involvement of NATO countries into this conflict. The Russian officials, both the Russian president, his spokesman, as well as the foreign ministry, have been speaking over the past days, suggesting that it is impossible to use long-range, high-precision weapons that have been supplied to Ukraine without the satellites data from the Western countries. So that's why they say they know that these attacks have already been carried out with the support of those Western countries. But what they say is happening now is further escalation by those Western states that do want to inflict what Moscow says is a strategic defeat against Russia on the battlefield. In the meantime, the officials here insist that no matter if there is any permission or not, Russia will continue its operation and its course will not be deviated or one way or another altered because of that permission. So Moscow is quite certain that it is going to achieve the goals. In the meantime, saying that the result of such actions by the Western countries could be quite detrimental, because it is undermining not just the global security, but also brings the world closer to the potential conflict between Russia and NATO countries.
Meanwhile, Italy has denied permission to Ukraine from using its weapons to attack targets in Russia. Italy's Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said that Italy was constitutionally prohibited from doing so and aimed to help bring about peace by supporting Ukraine to defend its own territory. Countries that have called for relaxing the restrictions or done so for their own arms sent to Ukraine include Britain, the Netherlands, Sweden, the Baltic countries, Finland, Denmark, Germany and France. And Germany on Friday announced that Ukraine's army can use weapons supplied by Berlin to defend itself against Russia's attacks. Its spokesperson said that under international law, Ukraine has the right to defend itself against Russia's attacks. The German statement came after days of scrutiny on German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government over its stance on allowing Kyiv to use German weapons. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky on Friday signed a bilateral security agreement with Sweden. It's one of three planned deals with Nordic countries as he seeks more military support from the West in Ukraine's conflict against Russia.
Today, we will sign three new security agreements. Ukraine plus Sweden. Thanks so much. Also with our Nordic partners, Norway and Iceland. And together we will discuss our next steps together. Air defense, like you said already, Prime Minister, and weapon production and our diplomacy. You can see that Russia is trying to expand the war and disrupt the peace summit, and we are preparing. It is also evident that Russia is preparing for provocations in the Baltic region against borders in the region. Only together we can stop the madness from Moscow.
And Megumi Lim has more from Kyiv. Take a listen.
Well, I think it's very, very important to note that both the United States and Germany are Ukraine's top two biggest donors of weapons and military aid. And this means that Ukraine can now tap into weapons supplied by its top two donors to strike at military targets inside Russian territory. Ukraine will be able to fire back at Russian military hardware and equipment just across the border from Ukraine. They will be able to shoot down Russian missiles and also Russian troops massing on the border. These were things that Ukrainian troops couldn't do just over 2 weeks ago when Russian forces were massing on the border near Ukraine's northeast Kharkiv region, and then they were able to mount a major ground offensive there. And Ukrainian military officials have also been warning for days now that there are Russian troops also massing on the border further up north in Ukraine's northern Sumy region. And Ukraine has been saying that their hands are tied, that they can see the buildup, but they're not able to use Western supplied weapons. But now that the restrictions have been lifted, this is significant for Ukrainian forces. Now, both the United States and Germany have been very clear that the lifting of restrictions only apply to certain types of weapons, such as artillery shells and certain types of rockets, but the restrictions remain for longer range weapons. For example, the US supplied long range ATACMS missiles that are able to fly as far as 300 kilometers. Both the United States and Germany has said that this restriction was only lifted for areas near the Kharkiv region. But again, as Ukrainian forces continue to be outmanned and outgunned on the battlefield, this policy shift will be useful for Ukrainian forces in repelling Russian attacks in the future.
Ministers gathered in Prague on Friday for an informal meeting to discuss ways to bring military aid to Ukraine and work out details ahead of the alliance's July summit. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that NATO's alliance is stronger, bigger and better resourced, but it must prepare for future challenges.
We have an alliance that is stronger, it's bigger, it will be even better resourced. And that's critical in facing the challenges of this time and coming years. As Jens said, in Washington for the 75th anniversary, of course, we'll be celebrating the 75 years of our alliance, the most successful alliance in history. But even more important is what we're doing to prepare the alliance, strengthen the alliance for the next 75 years.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. South Africa heads for a coalition government as the African National Congress's support plunges. And S&P Global Ratings upgrades India's credit rating outlook from stable to positive.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. The ruling African National Congress party was in the lead with just under 60% of the votes counted, but it is falling short of a majority. The ANC has won every election since the end of apartheid in 1994, when Nelson Mandela became the country's first black president. Isaac Lucando reports from Johannesburg.
As results continue to trickle in here in South Africa, the one thing that is becoming increasingly apparent is the fact that South Africans are yearning for change. Over the last few days, we've had an opportunity to speak to a number of South Africans, and the one common theme there is the need for change. South Africans are calling for an end to the corruption, an end to the electricity shortages, an increase in service delivery, things like water, jobs. These are all things that South Africans have been telling us that they need. And so at this particular point where the polls are showing that the ANC has less than 50% of the majority that it needs to be able to form a government, there's some hard questions that the ANC has to ask itself. And at this point, although we don't know yet, there could be some negotiations, some discussions around what type of coalition will have to be formed for the ANC to continue in power. On the 2nd of June, we expect full results to come out, but that will just be the beginning. From there, if a coalition is to be formed, some serious negotiations that could last a month or two have to be held. And from there, South Africans can begin to pick up the pieces and build the South Africa that they want. Isaac Lucando in Johannesburg, reporting for DD India.
Spain's police seized forged merchandise and other items worth $6.5 million for sale in the country ahead of the Champions League final and the European Championship scheduled in Germany next month. The seized goods include fake shirts packed alongside other forged items such as luxury watches, leather goods and electronics. Police began investigation after 2 tons of counterfeit shirts of Spanish football clubs sent from China were seized. The US and Chinese defense ministers locked horns over Taiwan in their first face-to-face meeting in 2 years on Friday. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and China's Defense Minister Dong Jun met in Singapore on the sidelines of Asia's premier defense summit, the Shangri-La Dialogue. During the meeting with Dong, Austin expressed concern about Chinese military activity near Taiwan, including after the island's presidential election. Both leaders also discussed the war between Russia and Ukraine and the conflict in Gaza. For Indians living in the US, there's one major drawback when returning home: long flights. Multiple connections, weather delays, missed flights. It can all add up to 20, 30 or even 40 hours of travel. Direct flights are seen as one way to cut back on the hassle, but they can be few and far between. As Tony Waterman explains from the US state of Texas, one man is taking a unique approach to solving this problem.
The old adage goes, if you build it, they will come. Except in Dallas, it's been flipped on its head. Indian nationals have already arrived by the hundreds of thousands. And now they're clamoring for an easier and faster way to get back to India.
My mother lives there, my sister family lives there.
For the past 2 decades, Venkat Malukala has lived in Frisco, about a 30-minute drive north of the Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. But he's originally from Hyderabad, roughly 9,000 miles away.
I had one very, very bad experience flying out of Hyderabad into London. All of a sudden, we got to know that the next flight from London to Dallas got cancelled.
He says it took him 2 days to get back to the U.S., an experience he's keen to avoid repeating. So in March, he started an online petition requesting Air India start a nonstop flight between Dallas and Hyderabad. It's now just a few hundred signatures short of its goal. Some top supporters even leaving video messages pleading their case.
It will save so much time.
It's gonna help a lot of people to commute very easily.
Technically, it's possible. The longest flight from DFW right now is to Melbourne, Australia, about the same flying time it would take to reach Hyderabad. Multiple requests for comment from Air India went unanswered. But in a statement to DD India, the DFW Airport Authority said it would welcome the opportunity to add this route to its portfolio of destinations if an airline makes that decision.
It's a big, expensive decision for an airline to add a new route, especially non-stops. But there could be a good business case for Air India. Texas is home to about 450,000 Indians, the second largest population in the United States.
At the very least, Venkat hopes Air India will consider it.
Oh, it means a lot. Believe me, it makes travelers or life very seamless.
Venkat's next trip to India is in August, but it won't be on Air India, but rather Qatar Airways, with one potentially inconvenient layover in Abu Dhabi. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
And now to some good news on the Indian economy front. India's gross domestic product or GDP for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 23-24 grew at 7.8%. The full fiscal year real GDP growth provisionally stands at 8.2%. The quarter 4 of financial year 23-24 GDP growth data was released by India's National Statistics Office on Friday. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code is a landmark reform for resolving issues of financially stressed companies. The minister wrote that the World Bank in its 2019 report noted that India's 2016 insolvency regime reform increased the creditor recovery rates from 26.5 to 71.6 cents on the dollar, making India by far the best performer in South Asia and surpassing even the average recovery rate of the OECD high-income economies. The minister said that a recent sample study by the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, on the effectiveness of the IBC resolution process observed that the companies witnessed significant improvements. 3 years post-resolution, their average sales rose by 76%. Employee count recovered to nearly pre-bankruptcy levels, average total assets rose by 50%, and capex increased by 130%, indicating a build-up of tangible assets. The minister said that, moreover, as recently mentioned by India's central bank governor Shaktikanta Das, the IBC has fundamentally transformed the credit culture in India, nudging debtors to settle their dues even before the initiation of insolvency proceedings. The S&P Global Ratings has upgraded India's credit rating outlook from stable to positive, citing policy stability, economic reforms and high infrastructure investment as key factors driving sustained long-term growth prospects. Since 26 September 2014, the agency placed India's outlook on economy as stable. After a gap of 10 years, the outlook has been upgraded to positive. An S&P Global Ratings statement said, and I quote, "The positive outlook reflects our view that continued policy stability, deepening economic reforms, and high infrastructure investment will sustain long-term growth prospects. That, along with cautious fiscal and monetary policy that diminishes the government's elevated debt and interest burden while bolstering economic resilience, could lead to a higher rating over the next 24 months, unquote. And India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal expressed happiness over the S&P's decision to upgrade India's sovereign rating from stable to positive after nearly 14 years.
Standard & Poor, the international rating agency, has upgraded India's sovereign rating from stable to positive after 14 years, largely due to the successful implementation of several measures over the last 10 years, where India has moved from a fragile 5 economy to the world's fastest growing large economy amongst the top 5 in the world. I believe Standard & Poor's re-rating India to positive from stable is a rightful comment and a rightful recognition on Prime Minister Modi's effective and astute management of the economy. Modinomics works. Modinomics is successful.
All right, now take a look at what else is making news around the world. Climate change-induced rising sea levels have forced an indigenous Guna community of Panama to leave their homes on an island off the country's coast that is fast disappearing. The Guna community has a population of only 1,351 people. Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister James Marape visited the landslide-affected Enga region on Friday. He met with the families of victims who mourned their loved ones. Hundreds of people died in the landslide. More than 2,000 people were feared buried alive under the debris. The Olympic flame landed at the Omaha beach in France on Thursday on its way to Paris. The flame was brought on a small boat with spectators gathering to witness the event. The 2024 Paris Olympics will be held from 26th of July to the 11th of August. A volcano in Iceland that erupted on Wednesday continued to spew lava for the third day. An evacuation order was issued for the natives of Grindavik and a nearby tourist spot. It's being described as the most powerful volcanic eruption since December of last year. In a protest to demand better wages, trains in Argentina's capital ran much below the usual speed on Thursday. Rising inflation and lower wages have been cited as the main cause by a railway workers' union, which plans to go on a full strike next week if negotiations fail. Still to come on DD India News Hour. A special report from Varanasi, which will vote in the 7th and last phase of India's election on Saturday. And heavy rains and floods wreak havoc in northeastern India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. Heatwave claims at least 65 lives in India's northern state of Bihar. The country's capital, New Delhi, grapples with a water crisis. In a policy shift, US President Joe Biden allows Ukraine to use US-supplied weapons against Russia in order to defend the under-fire Kharkiv region. And Donald Trump becomes the first former US president to be convicted of a crime. Court finds him guilty of falsifying documents to cover up a payment to silence an adult film star in 2016. Let's now get you the latest on the world's largest election in India. The 7th and last phase of India's parliamentary election will take place on Saturday. And with that, the world's largest democratic election will draw to a close. Voters across 57 constituencies in 8 states and union territories are eligible to exercise their franchise. All 13 seats of Punjab, 4 of Himachal Pradesh, 13 constituencies of Uttar Pradesh, 9 in West Bengal, 8 in Bihar, 6 in Odisha, and 3 seats in Jharkhand, besides the Union Territory of Chandigarh, will go to the polls on Saturday. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken time off for meditation at the iconic Vivekananda Rock Memorial in the southern tip of the country. Upon his arrival at Kanyakumari on Thursday evening local time, the Prime Minister first offered prayers at the Bhagavati Amman temple before heading to the Vivekananda Rock Memorial. Varanasi will vote in the 7th and last phase of India's election on Saturday. The city is witnessing a tourism boom, as Deepika Mehto finds out.
It's peak afternoon in Varanasi, but the streets are still bustling with a lot of crowd. Reason being, this is the famous place of Kashi, and secondly, elections are going on. That brings more number of people in the form of rallies, in the form of coverage, and in the form of tourists also to Kashi, and visit all the hotspots and see how they are treating all the visitors here.
Varanasi is all set to go to the polls on Saturday. The temperature is rising every hour, but interestingly, nothing dampens the growing business of Varanasi, and thanks to tourism for that.
After the completion of Kashi corridor, many tourists are coming. We have a good business because of tourists.
This place used to be a barren land earlier, and people used to play kho-kho, kabaddi, etc. Now, after development of Kashi, we have seen a multifold increase in the business.
Not only lassi, Varanasi is famous for kachori as well. And Chachi ki kachori, where Bollywood actors, ministers and most celebrities frequently visit, is always bustling with crowds.
After Kashi development, the footfall has increased even more.
Kashinath Baba and kachori and lassi, these are the three things, must-do things here.
Varanasi is famous for saris as well. And in one of the shops, the legendary late singer Lata Mangeshkar used to come more often. Now the owner believes that not only development, but the year of election also brings a lot of customers to the shop.
After Kashi's development, the customers are reaching out in large numbers. Especially the current election year is also bringing more customers to the shop.
Well, the days are getting hotter in Kashi, but the streets continue to bustle amidst election.
You can see that how trade is getting a boost amidst the election, defeating all odd barriers like weather and other conditions. With camera person Sanjeev, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from Varanasi.
All 4 constituencies of Himachal Pradesh will go to the polls on Saturday. The Election Commission has made arrangements for smooth conduct of the polls. Akshay Dongre speaks to the women polling officials at a pink booth about their experience.
Preparations are done for the last phase of the world's largest elections, and right now we are in Kullu in Himachal Pradesh, one of the hilly state of India. And here, different kind of preparations are being made as far as the polling officials are concerned. In fact, given the treacherous terrain at certain parts, in certain parts of the state, the polling teams, most of them have already left and already have set up the polling booths, given the fact that they have to leave in advance and ensure that there is no difficulty at the last moment to ensure that people are able to vote. Some of them who have polling booths in the neighboring areas are already making preparations right now. And in fact, we have a polling team with us. So how seriously are you taking? What are the preparations?
I'm very serious, and all my team members are also very serious, and will conduct this whole process very seriously and without any bias.
That's perhaps one of the most important things. So is all the training and process is in place?
Yes. We had 3 rehearsals, and everything was perfect, and we understood everything.
So this is what the polling officials here, the presiding officers, the micro observers, all of them are here in Kullu, and dispatching of these EVMs has already started a day in advance. And now today, just a day ahead of the polls, all of these teams that are going to the neighboring polling booths will also start their journey to set up the polling booth to ensure that the last phase of general elections in India is conducted in a transparent manner to make this world's largest election a huge success. With camera person Anil Thakur, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
All right, time to bring in DD India's team of reporters covering the election. Joining me are Akanksha Saxena from Chandigarh, Deepika Mehto from Varanasi, and Debyendu Mondal from Kolkata. First to you, Akanksha. What are some of the issues foremost in the mind of voters in Chandigarh and Punjab?
There are around 6 lakh voters here in Chandigarh, and there is one Lok Sabha seat. Primarily, the issues are mainly what is the national issues. We don't have much of issues of Chandigarh, as in you know that Chandigarh is quite a developed city. And last 2 terms had been with BJP, and this time Manish Tiwari has been he's contesting from Congress, and Sanjay Tandon has been given ticket for BJP. And there are other people also. There are 19 candidates who are in fray this time for this one Lok Sabha seat. And interestingly, if I tell you that all these 10 years when BJP was in power and Kiran Kher was the MP, so Congress always had an issue about having a parachute candidate, a candidate not from Chandigarh, not a native of Chandigarh, coming and contesting and coming and serving the citizens of Chandigarh. But this time, if we see, Manish Tiwari has not been here in Chandigarh, and if you see the last 2 times also, he had been contesting Lok Sabha elections from Punjab. So this is the very first time that Manish Tiwari and Sanjay Tandon both of them are new, and they are, for the first time, they are contesting the elections this time.
All right, let me now turn my attention to another of my colleague. I'm told Deepika Mehto is in Varanasi. Deepika, are you with us? Can you hear me? Deepika, can you hear me?
Yes, Ramesh, I can hear you.
Right,
I hope
great.
you can also
Deepika,
hear me loud
Prime
and clear.
Minister Narendra Modi's victory in Varanasi might be a foregone conclusion, but will the weather hold up on Saturday when the city goes to the polls? Also, what kind of a turnout are you expecting?
Good evening, Ramesh. Well, Varanasi is not only the holiest city, but a very strong hold here we can see of Prime Minister Narendra Modi since 2014. We saw a record number of margin in 2014 and in 2019, and now in 2024, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has appealed everyone to create yet another new record. This time they are expecting, the BJP is expecting a mark that crosses 10 lakh votes at least. This is what the target of BJP is. And for that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has significantly released a video message for all the voters of Varanasi. Not only this, he is also sending out written letters through all the BJP workers to the first-time voters. Now, across Varanasi, there are more than 19 lakh voters, out of which more than 3,000 voters are first-time voters. So, acknowledging the importance of first-time voters, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is sending letters, handwritten letters to them, urging all of them to come out in large numbers and exercise their right to vote. And not only this, there are before the silent period, there were a lot of rallies, public meetings and other awareness campaigns that were held by not only the parties but the Election Commission also. So tomorrow, despite the scorching heat, because this is the last phase of election, and in all the phases, barring the first 2 phases, from the 3rd phase onward till the last phase tomorrow, it's been really, really hot and humid across most parts of India. But even after that, we've seen the voters coming out in fair number and going to poll. And if we talk about the trend, the voters do come in large numbers in the first half of the day, and then they come in large numbers after 4 p.m. And that is towards the end of the polling, in the last 2 hours of the polling. So we are expecting some sort of that turnout also tomorrow, and whether we touch the 10 lakh crore, the 10 lakh mark that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is talking about, that remains to be seen. That we will see by tomorrow 5 p.m. in the evening, that what the voter turnout suggests. Ramesh.
Deepika, thank you. From Varanasi, let me now take you, the viewers, to Kolkata, the capital of West Bengal, where my colleague Dibyendu Mondal is standing by. Dibyendu, can you hear me? Are you with us?
Yes, I can, Ramesh.
Great. So, Dibyendu, what can you tell us about the political fortunes of the parties and candidates whose fate will be sealed on Saturday?
Well, Ramesh, interesting political fight here in Kolkata. The politics of West Bengal is, of course, extremely important. With the entry of the BJP to Bengal, and in 2021 it turning into the single largest opposition party in Bengal. So of course, the BJP is trying to gain more stronghold into the region of West Bengal, and particularly in the capital city of Kolkata. It had won for the first time in 2019 18 odd parliamentary seats out of the 42. This is something that the BJP, according to the BJP's, track record in West Bengal, it's the largest number of seats it has won ever since its inception, perhaps, from West Bengal. So, of course, the BJP is wanting to increase that number this time around from 18 to somewhere between 24 to 25. But whether that will happen or not is, of course, that we'll all come to know on the 4th of June. Just a couple of days left now. But in this particular phase, the 9 seats that are going to polls are interesting also because of the fact that the 2 important seats of Kolkata, the north and south, are going to polls. The BJP is hoping to bag at least one of these from the 2, the north and the south. The BJP is pretty confident amongst itself on the Kolkata North seat with its new candidate, which is Taposh Roy, being fielded by the BJP. He's erstwhile Trinamool Congress MLA. He joined the BJP just a couple of months ahead of the polls of the general elections of 2024. He's popular and fairly well connected to the people here in Kolkata. So, of course, the BJP is banking upon him for this particular seat. This is not Kolkata, Ramesh, where I'm currently standing. There are a lot of university students here. Right opposite me, where I'm standing currently, is the Calcutta University. It's also the College Street, where it's also known as the Asia's largest book market. So, these constitutes the voters of North Kolkata. North Kolkata also has a lot of non-Bengali speaking population, given the fact that during the British time, a lot of traders settled down here in this part of Kolkata. So, of course, that will be an interesting contest here in North Kolkata. But barring this, there are other interesting contests, which includes the Jadavpur constituency, where the BJP has fielded Anirban Ganguly. He's a Bengali, but he has been settled in Delhi for quite some time. But he's a Bengali. He's taking on the Trinamool Congress's Yuva Morcha president, as well as former actress Shayani Ghosh. So that the Prime Minister also campaigned for Anirban Ganguly in Jadavpur. So that's also an interesting contest to watch out for. And apart from that, Ramesh, the Bashirhat Lok Sabha constituency, I'm sure you'll remember the Sandesh Khali incident where, the TMC's alleged muscleman Sheikh Shah Jahan was alleged of, molestation and rape. So, of course, that constituency is important only because of the fact that the BJP has given a ticket to Rekha Patra, who herself is one of the complainant against Sheikh Shah Jahan. So, of course, that will be interesting to see how the electorate of that particular constituency votes, whether it will be for the BJP or the TMC. Of course, that the people of Bashirhat will decide, and we'll come to know on the 4th of June. Back to you.
Indeed. On that note, Dibyendu Mondal in Kolkata, thank you. Appreciate it. Let me also thank my other colleagues, Deepika Mehto, who is joining us from Varanasi, and Akanksha Saxena, who was with us from Chandigarh. In some more news from India now, people in the country grapple with searing temperatures as a heat wave grips several parts of the country. Central India was in the grip of extreme heat wave conditions. But a recent satellite imagery by the India Meteorological Department predicts lightning and gusty winds to batter several parts of heat wave battered regions such as Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and Jharkhand, giving people a short respite from the sweltering heat. Heat stroke claimed at least 65 lives in the northern Indian state of Bihar. The dead included 6 election workers and 2 school principals. More than 250 people are receiving treatment at various hospitals. As the state reels under a heat wave, it is feared that the voter percentage in Bihar on Saturday might get affected as well. Jamui and Buxar recorded a maximum temperature of 47.1 degrees Celsius, while the temperature keeps fluctuating between 40 and 46 degrees in the other districts of the state. Meanwhile, heavy rains and floods continue to wreak havoc in northeastern India. Rivers continue to flow above the danger mark, with Imphal River breaching its banks and causing severe flooding in the low-lying areas. The locals have been forced to shift to safer places. Indian Army engineers are working to plug the breach so as to lessen the damage. Another major bridge in Kangpokpi district is also under repair. The Indian Army and Assam Rifles are jointly conducting extensive relief and rescue operations throughout the state. So far, more than 5,000 people have been rescued, including more than 2,000 women and children. In addition, they are providing basic amenities, essential supplies and medical treatment to those in need. India's premier mental health and neurosciences institution, the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, or NIMHANS, has bagged the Nelson Mandela Award for Health Promotion for 2024 by the World Health Organization. India's Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia congratulated NIMHANS. He said it is a recognition of India's efforts in inclusive healthcare. The Nelson Mandela Award for Health Promotion was established in 2019. It recognizes individuals, institutions, and governmental or non-governmental organizations that have demonstrated remarkable contributions to promotion of health. Now, 31st May is World No Tobacco Day. This yearly celebration informs the public on the dangers of using tobacco. India's Ministry of Health and Family Welfare organized an event on Friday to observe the World No Tobacco Day. This year's theme, Protecting Children from Tobacco Industry Interference, underscores the urgent need to shield youth from the detrimental influences of tobacco consumption. Indian badminton maestro PV Sindhu is announced as brand ambassador for tobacco control. During the event, awardees of the WHO World No Tobacco Day 2024 award were felicitated. Under the National Oral Health Program, an oral screening and tobacco cessation camp was also organized on the occasion. And now take a look at what else is making news in India. The Delhi International Airport Limited conducted an awareness campaign in New Delhi with an aim to inform people about accidents caused by a bird hit. The campaign was part of the airport company's efforts to enhance safety measures around the airfield. India's Income Tax Department has seized a record $130 million in cash and jewelry during the ongoing parliamentary election. According to official sources, it marks a 182% jump over the seizures made during the last election that was held in 2019. Around 30 vehicles parked outside police station in Bulandshahr in Uttar Pradesh state caught fire on Friday. Superintendent of Police of Bulandshahr assured that fire was timely doused and probe has been ordered to find out the cause of the fire. Let me get you some sports news now. At the French Open, defending champion Novak Djokovic sealed a routine 6-4, 6-1, 6-2 win over unseeded Spaniard Roberto Carvalles Baena to enter the third round on Thursday. Djokovic has been some way from his convincing best in an erratic season, where he is bidding to win a record 25th Grand Slam title. The top-seeded Serbian was dragged into a battle by Carvalles Baena after recovering an early break. The 37-year-old will take on Italy's Lorenzo Musetti in the third round on Saturday.
Well, there's always that kind of conviction and belief inside of me that I can win a slam. I mean, that's the reason why I'm still competing at this level. That's why I'm here. At this age, I wouldn't be really competing at the slams and continuing to play professional tennis if I didn't believe that I possess quality to go all the way to the title match. So, I still, of course, sense that I have the game and I have the goods to go far. But as I said in the press conference prior to the start of the tournament, I don't want to get too much ahead of the present day, because I haven't had really a great form as a lead up to Roland Garros. So I have to keep my expectations a bit lower. Of course, hopes and beliefs and convictions are always there, always high. And I always aim for the highest star, so to say. But, I'm being very conscious of the present moment and what needs to be done on a daily basis to build my form as the tournament progresses, hopefully, and then peak at the right time when it matters the most.
Boca Juniors striker Edinson Cavani announced his retirement from international soccer on Thursday. The 2011 Copa America winner, Cavani is Uruguay's second most capped player and second highest scorer. He made his debut with a 2-2 draw with Colombia in a friendly in February 2008. The 37-year-old joined Argentina's Boca Juniors club in July last year after parting ways with La Liga side Valencia. At the club level, Cavani won 6 League One titles and the 5 French Cups with Paris Saint-Germain between 2014 and 2020. The Uruguayan side also played for Napoli, where he won the 2011-12 Coppa Italia, and also played with Manchester United. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Up. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen now to download it. Okay, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Up.